record button?
Yep.
And it's going. Okay.
Very good. I've been asked to recount the story of the Shekigawas. This is not a make-believe story. It is a true story. Back when I was in college at what is now known as Hope International University, in 1962-63, I was invited to a home of a family I'd never heard of, although I knew the teenagers who were part of that home because of my age and person I am. And so my aunts and I went out and had dinner with this family. And it was a Japanese family. The connection was that one of my good friends in the group I ran with, one of her best friends, had a father who was asking about friendships and saying, who's that new boy I've noticed around? And, well, it's Jim Shields. And he said, well, is that the son or the grandson of Mary Shields? He says, I don't know. So she checked in. It's true.
From Glendora, right?
From Glendora. So we went out and came in graciously. Were entertained in Anaheim. And it turns out their family went to the Anaheim First Christian Church. So we sat down and had a very lovely meal. And then Mr. Shekigawa indicated that he'd like to tell me a story if I'd listen for a while, which I was pleased to do. The story was that back in 1940s, when Japan attacked the United States, not long after the intern camps were established, which many, many Japanese, hundreds of thousands actually, as it turned out, ended up in intern camps for Japanese people on the West Coast. The American government was afraid there were too many spies, and it would make the access to our West Coast much more easily available to enemy forces from Japan if these Japanese people were not confined. Well, my grandmother, Mary Shields, heard that her neighbors, who were Japanese, were about to be carried off by the United States government against their will. She was just incensed. She felt this was a terrible thing to do, not just from a Christian standpoint, but even a political standpoint. The American Constitution didn't allow this. So she went next door and she says, don't worry. While you're gone, everything will be taken care of. And when you return, everything will be as you left it. And they thanked her very much. A few weeks later, they were gone. Several years passed, 4.5 in fact. And they came back and everything was exactly as they had left it. This was not true of tens of thousands of homes, which were burned and not burned. A few of them were burned just for the fun of it, looting, I guess. But numbers of which were ransacked, many of which were just taken over by banks and other institutions, fraudulently as it turned out, and later lawsuits proved. But the point being that my grandmother had given her word that their material would be there, and it was when they got back. So he said, so my children, he says, I am indebted to you until I die. My children's are indebted to you, my children's children, and on forever, because of what your grandmother did for my family. If you ever have any need, you come to my family, tell them the story, let them know your need, and they will provide. And it's very moving. Now, I haven't come up with anything to go through about him. His widow, I think, is still alive. She must be 102, I guess, still a member of Anaheim First Christian Church. And that was the Shekigawas, Anaheim fame, who just happened to be helped by a neighbor who cared about Jesus, and therefore cared about them. So, thank you for my grandmother's name, Mary Shields, which is interesting because my mother's name is Mary Shields.
Thank you.